Welcome back. Now, the BMW Art Generation brings celebrated and established artists, curators and academics into the same room as an emerging generation of future greats for a conference of global creative thought on African soil. Featuring field leaders, this weekend's conversations will span themes including artistic practices relevant to our ecosystem collection, as well as cultural ownership and curation as a tool to recreate narratives. Now, to tell us more, we're joined in studio by BMW Art Joburg Managing Director, Mandla Sibeko. Mandla, good morning. Welcome to Morning Live.
Good morning. Thank you very much.
Speak to us about the BMW Art Generation. What is it for somebody who's hearing about this for the first time?
Well, it's really set up around conversations between two generations. So Johannesburg has pioneered many things, as you know. It's a place where many things begin. We felt that it was time that we bring back discussions.
Right.
Between two generations, between the older generations and the younger generation. So it's really playing around the idea of having this dialogue between two generations. So when I say two generations, I mean it across different genres, from curators to artists, as well as musicians. So there are many things that are taking place this weekend. We have some exciting speakers who have come from the continent. Professor Chika, who's a leading curator and a professor at Princeton University, just flew in all the way to Johannesburg to have a discussion about the future of art and practice. So all of this is taking place in Maboneng. So the whole idea was also finding ways in which you could help to rejuvenate the inner CBD. So we're moving people back in many ways into the CBD of Joburg.
Speak to us about the process of trying to put all these topics together and all these themes and finding just the right people, you know, the right creatives and academics to fit in what you are trying to do.
A lot of work goes into the thinking. It's obviously theme. The theme is obviously generation. So we obviously, one of those the idea behind the theme was that we needed to host it with an artist who's quite established globally from Joburg. So when you think of one artist, you think of William Kentridge, who's really one of our top artists coming from Johannesburg, and he still lives in Johannesburg, which is really amazing. So that already on its own, using his center, the Center for the Less Good Idea, is already the first thing where you play around the theme. So a lot of work goes into preparation around what is to be discussed. So there's discussions about patronage. There's discussions around how do Africans collect art. And then there's also discussions around the future. And also looking back, because Johannesburg has, as I said, there's so much talent that comes from Johannesburg. Half the time, the people who live in Johannesburg don't even know what's here. You just had an amazing musician perform just before I came on. So a lot of work goes into the preparation, curators. There's a lot of work. It took us at least a couple of months to kind of finally decide on the different themes and topics.
And speak to us about the young artists. We've touched on the more established, the legends, and so forth, but I'm curious about the young ones. Who is on this list?
Well, there's amazing artists like Lebogang Kganye, who's already is in like major cities around the world. So we felt that it was important that her work be shown here amongst the greats, you know. So Lebogang has got an exhibition inside the Faith itself. Then we also felt that it was important to go back in history. Artists like N.S. Cole will be showcasing his work. He obviously played such an important role because he had this amazing archive of photographs, which were actually the photographs that the world got to see about how terrible apartheid was. So there's such an amazing, then of course the music lineup, the musicians, Brother Moves On, is such an exciting lineup of different talent that's coming from all over South Africa. And then on the panels themselves, there's just an amazing lineup of young curators. There's Tato Mokgotsi, who's a curator at Zaitz Moka, and then who's speaking to Professor Chika. There's an established collector who's been collecting African art, well, not really African art, but African-American art. For 4 decades, that's 40 years, who will be speaking on the panel with Bulani Kingston, our local art collector, and a young collector, actually, Marupeng Mangwedi, who will also be on the panels. And then there's an amazing superstar of the art world, actually, Hans, who's coming in from the Serpentine in the UK, and there's Thomas Gist, who's from BMW, who heads up culture globally, you know, supporting museums, making sure that the public have access to culture. So it really is the first time. I've never heard of anything like that in Johannesburg, where you bring in all these different genres in one room, and somehow it's an immersion. So you go in from the door, and you'll figure yourself around these different areas. And of course, there's food and there's wine, and
And, you know, the one thing that I'm thinking about is the Center for the Less Good Idea and the space that this is, and the different rooms that it occupies, and the significance of the fact that what William Kentridge has done with the space and the young people that he brings into the space. Speak to us about being in this space for somebody who may not know the center and what it looks like.
So already William is a symbol of collaboration. So that's exactly what we're trying to achieve. We're trying to achieve the idea that older established creatives and older artists can collaborate with young ones. William says things like he doesn't know his age because he is so involved in the new world, sometimes far much more advanced than you and I at times, because he's so involved in just new things. So the idea of the center was really for him to create a space in which he could really get out of his traditional art and really collaborate with so many musicians and artists and everything else. And the whole idea is that every idea is important at the center, so there is no less good idea. And so the space itself is already symbolic of that collaboration, and that's why we chose it.
Speak to us about how it's structured, the structure of it, for somebody who wants to attend today, and give us details of ticket prices as well.
Sure. Ticket prices can start at 250 rands, so which is really fantastic, so everyone can have access. It's structured in such a way that you have to look at the program on artjoburg.com.
Okay.
We open doors today at 11 o'clock, at 10 o'clock, sorry. And the first talks start, there's about 3 talks a day. There's 3 sessions today, and there's 3 sessions tomorrow. And you can see on the program on artjoburg.com what to look out for. So you can attend a talk, you can look at an exhibition, you can go get food, and also there's amazing South African and African designers who are also showcasing inside the venue.
And I can imagine of not trying not to put too much on one, you know, in one day, not too little. Speak to us about that battle.
So it was a big battle, because you don't want to put too much and you don't want to take away attention, but also you have to structure it in such a way that people can still be able to attend talks and still be able to listen to music and still be able to see exhibitions. So it's really been curated really well for you, and I hope that it's really the start of something that will stay in Johannesburg, that more and more of these kind of things can start to happen, and we'll return next year and make sure that there is this art generation. And the whole idea of it actually was born out of the BMW Young Collectors Call, which is really our mission, seeing that the people who really patronize art and were collecting art were predominantly white and old. We're getting older, and we're kind of concerned to saying, how do we get the next generation of young leaders who are suddenly taking up leadership across different sectors in South Africa, to make them culturally aware, so that they're not just walking into these buildings without knowing what's on their walls, so they can make informed decisions about culture like their predecessors. So it's really an empowerment program. So this is actually a program that's born out of the BMW Young Collectors Call, which is a fantastic partnership with BMW.
All right, Mandla, sounds like it's going to be a great afternoon. Thank you so much for coming through. Mandla speaking to us. Mandla Sibeko, in fact, is the F&B Joburg Managing Director, speaking to us about the BMW Art Generation, which takes place this weekend and celebrates artists, curators, and academics. All right.